The story begins nearly 200,000 years ago during the Stone Age. When people used to craft weapons from stone to hunt large animals for survival, a group of hunters is shown lying in wait for a massive hunt. With winter approaching, they are desperate for food. Otherwise, surviving the cold months would be nearly impossible. Their leader Tao instructs them to launch the attack. But as the hunters move, the animals notice them and begin charging toward the hunters instead. Seeing the danger, the hunters throw their spears all at once, forcing the animals to change direction and fall one by one into a deep gorge. However, one of the animals turns toward Kata Dao's son. Before Kata can react, the wild beast attacks and injures him, lifting him on its horns and tossing him toward the gorge. Dao witnesses this from a distance and throws his spear, hitting the animal. This causes Kata to be launched into the air and fall into the gorge. The scene then rewinds 7 days earlier. Dao is seen testing young boys before taking them on the hunting expedition. The test involves crafting tools. Among those tested, 2 boys are selected, including Kata, later. They are also beaten to test their pain endurance, but they pass. That too. Dao feels proud of his son. At night, Kata's mother expresses concern, saying her son is still just a child. Dao reassures her that with time and circumstances, he will learn. The next morning, Kata says goodbye to his mother and leaves for the hunt. After days of travel, the group reaches a path made by their ancestors, a sign that they're on the right track. Later, they meet another tribe, friends of Dao, who are also out hunting. The 2 tribes join forces in search of prey. During the journey, they encounter a wild animal. Dao tells his son to kill it as a test. Kata hesitates and cannot do it. This angers Dao, who tells him that only the strong survive. Dao then kills the animal himself. That night, while they're eating, Dao hears something strange in the forest and tells everyone to stay quiet. They all sense the presence of an animal. After a few still moments, a lion suddenly appears and drags away one of the boys, killing him. Everyone is shaken. Dao tries to encourage his son to stay brave. The next day, believing the boy who was taken is dead, they make a memorial from stones, a rest in peace symbol, asterisk midway through the story. The narrator appeals to viewers to subscribe and like the video, noting that 99% of viewers watch but don't subscribe, asterisk. The group continues their journey along the ancestral paths. One night, they rest in a cave, where Dao spends time with his son, ... Would you like the rest of the story translated as well? Here is the English translation of the next part of the story. Kata carves a map of the ancestral path onto his hand, so he can follow it and find his way back home, even in difficult conditions. Suddenly they hear a noise and spot a pack of wolves. Dao tells his son that the leading wolf is the alpha, the leader whose life is always at risk. If the rest of the pack senses weakness in him, they'll challenge his authority. That's why an alpha's true identity lies in his strength and courage, which allows him to lead. The next morning, they see animal tracks and follow them until they find the animals. This is where the story returns to the opening scene, where Kata is shown falling into the ravine. Dao and his group rush to the edge and see Kata clinging to a rock ledge. They encourage him to stay strong and try to reach him. But Kata loses his grip and falls onto another ledge halfway down the cliff. Dao tries to go save his son, but the group stops him, fearing he's putting his own life at risk. One man reminds Dao of his duty as a leader to bring the others back safely. With great sorrow, Dao agrees. Still, he keeps calling for his son throughout the night, hoping Kata might respond. After a long night and no answer, Dao assumes his son is dead. The group builds a stone memorial, a rest in peace mark, and leaves. Later, vultures begin circling Kata's unconscious body, thinking he's dead. Suddenly, he wakes up and scares them away. He calls out for his father, but hears nothing, realizing he's alone. Kata begins to climb down the mountain. Despite his injuries, heavy rain begins to fall, filling the ravine with water. Kata takes a leap into the water and floats away. When he wakes up the next morning, he drinks dirty rainwater to quench his thirst and bandages his wounded leg with cloth and wood to make it walkable. Limping with a stick, he climbs back up to the area where he fell. There he sees the rest-in-peace stone structure and breaks down emotionally. In anger, he kicks the stones into the ravine. The noise attracts a pack of wolves. Seeing them, Keita climbs a tree to stay safe and spends the whole night up there.
The next
morning, while collecting water, the wolves return. Keita tries to run back to the tree, but one wolf bites his leg. In desperation, Keita fights back and wounds the wolf before climbing the tree again. Night falls, and the wounded wolf lies on the ground in pain while the rest of the pack leaves. The next morning, Keita prepares a spear to put the wolf out of its misery, but as their eyes meet, he feels compassion and changes his mind. He ties a rope around the wolf's snout and takes it with him. Eventually, they find a cave for shelter. When Keita wakes the next morning, he realizes it's the same cave where he and his father had stayed before. He makes a poultice using herbs and applies it to his injured leg while drinking water. He notices the wolf watching him. Keita cautiously offers water in a bowl, and the wolf drinks. This is the beginning of their friendship. Later, Keita catches a rabbit and eats it. When the wolf looks hungry, Keita shares the meat with him. Their bond grows stronger. The next morning, Keita decides to continue his journey home and tells the wolf to return to its pack. But the wolf keeps following him, even when Keita tries. To scare him away with a stick, the wolf brings it back playfully, and they begin to play. Eventually, Keita accepts the wolf as his companion. Later, they encounter a group of wild animals. The wolf tries to help by guiding them toward Keita using hunting techniques, but Keita hesitates, and the prey escapes. They go to sleep hungry that night. The next day, they try again. This time, the wolf teaches Keita how to hunt. By nightfall, their bond has deepened, and the wolf sleeps next to Keita. In the morning, the wolf gently wakes Keita up with affection. Would you like me to continue translating the rest of the story? Here's the English translation of the final part of the story. The next morning, they bathe in the river. Afterward, the wolf catches a fish for Keita, which makes him very happy. The following morning, the two set off toward their destination. And Keita finally names his new friend Alpha. As time passes, the seasons change, and winter arrives. One day while hunting, Keita bravely kills a wild animal, and the two celebrate their first successful hunt with a feast. Suddenly, another wolf appears. Thinking it might be dangerous, Keita grabs his spear to defend himself, but quickly realizes that it's a member of Alpha's pack. Alpha looks back at Keita with hopeful eyes, as if asking permission to return to her pack. Keita allows Alpha to go, and she leaves with the others. The next morning, Keita pushes forward through a severe snowstorm. While walking, he sees a pack of wolves and spots Alpha among them. Overjoyed, he runs toward his friend, but the ice breaks under his feet, and he falls into a frozen lake. Alpha sees this and rushes to help, trying to break the ice with her paws. Unable to do so, Keita uses his tool to smash the ice and escape. Alpha helps pull him out of the freezing water. To survive the cold, Keita builds a fire and takes off his wet clothes, cuddling with Alpha to stay warm. The next day, they continue their journey. Along the way, they find a man frozen to death in the snow. Keita takes the man's bow and arrows and moves on. Soon they face a deadly blizzard and an attack by a hyena. They take refuge in a cave, but Alpha senses danger. Suddenly, a lion attacks Keita. Alpha bravely jumps in to protect him, fighting the lion while risking her own life. Keita shoots the lion with an arrow, killing it, but Alpha is severely injured. In the fight, seeing her loyalty, Keita promises to protect her for the rest of his life. The next morning, they continue their journey. Eventually, Keita spots an ancestral path marker, a sign that they're on the right track and near home. Despite the freezing weather, they press on. At one point, Alpha collapses, exhausted and unable to walk. Keita lifts her in his arms and keeps moving. But soon, he too loses strength from hunger and fatigue and collapses with Alpha in his arms. In a dream, sees his parents, which gives him renewed strength. He wakes up, lifts Alpha once again, and walks with all his might. Eventually, his determination pays off. He sees his tribe in the distance. Overwhelmed with joy, Keita runs toward them. His father Tao is overjoyed to see his son alive. Keita asks if he has finally proven himself. Tao, full of emotion, hugs him tightly. The tribe treats their wounds and is surprised to learn that Alpha is actually a female wolf who gives birth to puppies. Keita is shocked, having assumed Alpha was male, but his respect for her only grows. The tribe welcomes Alpha and her cubs as part of their family. Time passes, and Keita is shown as the new leader of the tribe. Thus begins the bond between humans and animals, marking the origin of the friendship between mankind and dogs. This is where the movie ends. Would you like a full summarized version of this movie for narration? Or do you want SEO content title description tags for a video on this film too?